Welcome to the lighter side of the dark side. It's your weekly freak show here on Renegade Radio and all podcast catchers and YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, everywhere you listen to us. I'm Dark Mark, the goth comedian, and as always, everybody's favorite horror writer, Nicole Six.
Hello, good afternoon.
And you're as excited as I've seen you in a long time.
I'm all smiles. This is a lovely guest. I enjoyed the last time we had him on the show, and I'm happy to have him on the show again.
Well, he doesn't remember it, but if you know who this guest is, you'll see why. He actually was a little late because apparently he was a little too chill and relaxed, if you know what I mean. But he's one of our favorites, one of my comedy heroes, and it's such an honor to talk to him again. Tommy Chong.
Hey, thank you.
Although, according to Zoom, you're Thomas Chong.
Yeah, who are you again?
I'm Dark Mark. Let me go through the intro again. Dark Mark, the goth comedian, and
I thought you were darker, Mark.
A lot of people say that. I did a show not too long ago, and Sean Wayans followed me, and he's like, "I'm darker, Mark." I'm like, "Okay, great, okay, whatever." Actually, it wasn't Sean Wayans, somebody else, but no, it was our guest last week, Brandon Black, said I'm darker, Brandon. So, but Tommy, it's always great to see you, and if people don't know who you are, you better get that Google working, because everybody knows who you are.
Yeah,
and everybody likes. In a society where we're encouraged to hustle harder, sleep less, and work more, you may find it difficult to relax and be in the moment. Performance issues in the bedroom affect millions of men just like you and I. And finally, there's a discreet tool that works. Meet Eddie, the smarter treatment for erectile dysfunction. Eddie is a clinically proven, easy-to-use wearable device designed to help men of any age strengthen and maintain their erections. Call 737-301-6111. That's 737-301-6111 to speak to a licensed nurse, or visit eddiebygiddy.com, EDDIEBYGIDDY.com, and be the best version of yourself. eddiebygiddy.com, where innovation meets ED. And we have a special discount for you. If you use our code DARKMARK20 in checkout, you get 20% off your order. Be the best version of yourself. Try eddiebygiddy.com and use our code DARKMARK20 and get 20% off. And you'll be happy. Your partner will be happy. We'll all be happy. Except maybe Cheech. But everybody likes you, regardless of age.
Well, they like me. They like me more than Cheech.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Now I wanted to start off with this because, well, actually,
except my wife. Except my wife, she liked Cheech.
Your wife likes Cheech more than you.
Yeah. That was just to piss me off. So,
Nicole, I'll give you the first question once again, because I know you have lots of questions for Tommy.
Okay. What is the best part of smoking weed? What is the best benefit it brings to your life?
It calms the mind. And when you have a calm mind, people say, it's forgetting, but it's not forgetting. It is your mind is sort of like it loses its grasp on those things that it hangs on to. Sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of fear. But when you get high on THC, your mind relaxes. And when it relaxes, then it sort of like becomes open for other messages and other impulses that we're trying to get in, that you had blocked. And like hunger, for instance. You don't realize how hungry you are until you get really high. And then you go, whoa, I'm really hungry, because all your senses are, your brain is aware of all your senses, you see. And so what it does, in a way, it clouds the brain, but in a better way, it unclouds the brain.
It removes all the negativity, maybe.
I was going to say it's kind of like meditation in a way. It's its own form of meditation, right down to the breathing, the in and the out.
Exactly. And that's why, the mystics, the evolved, the gurus, the highly evolved ones, they got total control of their mind. And it's been written in scriptures in the Bible many times that if you keep your mind on God, then he will perfect that which concerns you. In other words, if you're a writer, then you really write. If you're an artist, you do your art. You're an actor, you act. If you're a singer, you sing. But it helps you perfect your profession, and that's just by having a thought, your thought on God, on the muse, on the higher power, whatever you want to call it, nature, whatever you want to call it, but having a pure thought. Because when you think of God, you're really having a pure thought, because God represents total purity. And so when you have pure thoughts, then it's a big highway for all the good stuff to come pouring in, you see? And that's what pot does.
And if you believe in God, God created marijuana.
Of course, he created everything.
Yeah. So I wanted to clear something up, because last time we interviewed you, I really went into the breakup of Cheech and Chong because I was very curious how that happened and why it happened. And after the show, Nicole's like, it's such a shame they never got back together, but you did. How did that happen?
Well, we got back together, I guess, 05. 04, 05. We got back together before. We were supposed to do a movie before I went to jail. But
Really?
Because I went to jail, that sort of stopped that. And then while I was in prison, Cheech came out a couple of times to write the so-called movie we were going to do when I got out. But when I got out, I didn't like what was written, and so that fell apart. And then we more or less broke up. But then after I got out, Cheech wasn't acting, there was no jobs or whatever. And so we had a meeting to see if we could get back together again. But the meeting didn't go so well. But even though I hadn't seen him for a long time, and so I texted him. I said, even though we're not getting back together, it was nice seeing you. Well, my son intercepted my email, because my son kind of has control over my computer, because he showed me how to do it, and he made sure that he had control. So he erased my email and put his own email in there, where he says, I'm really glad that we're getting back together again, and that we should be rehearsing, and blah, blah, blah. And then my son told me after what he did, because Cheech was on his way over for the rehearsal. And we had a wasn't much of a rehearsal. It was like, hey, okay, looks like we're doing this again. And that was it. We're back together.
I remember hearing about it. And like I say, it was, when you guys officially announced you were back together, it was after you were in jail. And it was like, it was like a big rock band getting back together. To me, it was amazing. It was 20 years.
It was. Yeah. Yeah. We've been apart that long. And then, then we got back and we worked right up until the pandemic, And
so what's your relationship with Cheech like now?
He's still a Mexican, I can't get past that, but I will eventually,
You don't say.
It's pretty good. He's got his own art gallery now, so
right.
So I'll be, if it ever opens. He's postponed the opening about 5 times now.
Well, because of the pandemic, though, right?
Well, I know it's a Mexican opening too.
Oh, one of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Well, Tommy, this actually a good segue. Let me show you this because I want to make sure I get the name right. As I said, everybody's been going crazy because we're having you back on. Kareem John sent this. I'm going to share my screen, and I hope you can see this. Give me just a second, and hold on. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Kareem John. Let me exit. Oh, sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, he did a picture of you and Cheech Chong.
Very nice.
And I will, if you'd like, I could send that to your son, and so you have a copy of it.
I'd love one. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And so it just goes to show you. I mean, you're inspired. You've inspired all sorts of arts.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're NFT'd too. You know.
Oh, you got Cheech Chong NFTs now?
Well, it's homies. The homies they're called, and they're Cheech and Chong homies, and they're on the market.
You remember homies, Nicole?
I remember homies. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Cheech and Chong homies NFTs. That sounds great.
Yep. It's being sold, and we sold out the first round, and now they're looking to keep making more money. So it's doing good. You know.
Great. And I do have to ask you, because like I said, I want to give Cheech his due. What is it about Cheech that made you funnier?
No, Cheech is probably funnier. Depends on the bit, you know. Depends on the bit.
You guys are so much funny. I mean, you're both funny guys, but together there's just magic.
Oh yeah. No, I mean we're perfect together. We always were. He just got tired of me fucking with him, you know, because that's all I did though. Every movie, you see, it was amazing. But then he evolved actually, and he evolved into a fine actor, you know, very fine, you know, and a cop, you know, with Nash Bridges. He plays a very credible cop. Yeah, very entertaining. You know, that's what he wanted to do. His dad really was a cop, and Cheech, you know, like dads and sons, you know, Cheech was very proud to be able to follow in his footsteps, even if it was just on television, but especially because it was on television.
Right.
Because Cheech really, you know, personified that whole profession, you know, and it was such a, you know, I don't know how Oscar, the dad, felt about it, but I'm quite sure, you know, Oscar deep down inside was, well, that's my boy, you know.
It's amazing who gets to play cops. So you got Cheech, you got Ice-T, you got all these like notorious people, and now they're playing cops.
Yeah, because there's no difference. Just there's just a line, and you're either on one side or the other. That's all. You know,
right?
Just like prison. I heard they caught the girl and the guy that escaped, you know, from Alabama or whatever it was. But I understand totally, you know, her falling in love with the guy because when I was in jail, you know, the guards were doing just as hard time as the prisoners, you know, and we were just one big family. It was just that one had a uniform and another had a different kind of uniform. Yeah.
Now, did you get love letters in prison? I don't know. I know you're married to the lovely Shelby, but
not love letters. I got fan mail, which I kept, and I intend to do an art project where I'm going to feature the letters somehow, you know, in the project.
There wasn't one woman that's like, hey, I'll bust you out. And
more than that kind of thing. Well, with the prison I was in, you could walk away if you wanted to.
Right.
You know? Especially on the weekends, you know. If you can get by the count, you could be gone for the weekend and come back, and they wouldn't know about it.
You know who Tommy Selmy was, Nicole?
No.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yes, I do remember that. We discussed that last time. Jordan Belfort.
Right, and the reason that there's a book and a movie is because of Tommy Chong.
Well,
I helped Tommy. I remember.
I gave him some good advice, and he took it. And because he's a brilliant genius, what I told him rang true, and he proved it. He proved it, my theory.
And there were tennis courts at the prison.
Yep. Yeah, they had tennis courts, and Jordan would play every
The least he
day.
could have done was put you in the movie.
What's that?
I think I said the least he could have done is put you in the movie. Like he
It wasn't up to him. He would have, but
and you'd work with Scorsese.
Yeah, it was more up to Scorsese, but they didn't need me in the movie for sure. That was such a good movie. Oh,
it was a great movie. It's an amazing.
Oh my God! And the people, the way they cast the girl, the wife, and incredible.
And I have to ask you, as an expert, the depiction of lewds, is that accurate?
Well, that was one of the reasons that he clicked with me, because I told him when I was teaching him how to write, I said, you got to write the most of, so if you get high, you got higher than anybody ever on the planet got high. And
even Tommy Chong.
Oh, especially Tommy Chong, because I could never, with me, when I got high, I just don't move, I go nowhere. I stay where I'm at. But Jordan, he told me a lot of those stories, and then he embellished on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got DiCaprio, was such a genius, make it even more bigger, So that's why that movie worked, because it was big. It was a big movie.
Right. But have you ever been... Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, is there a creative project you haven't done yet that you'd like to do? Like something, you've had such a big career, but is there anything left that you haven't done yet that you always wanted to do?
Yeah, I wanted, and I'm going to do this. I wanted to be head of a movie studio, like a mogul.
Amazing.
And I'm going to be. I'm putting a movie company together called Peace Pipe Pictures, and I'm going to be the mogul. And we're going to have a budget of about $1 trillion, because I'm going to write movies, produce movies that will cure the homeless situation, will help the immigrants at the border big time, and help America, give people health coverage from the get-go, schooling, all that good stuff that we need to create a society that will sustain itself, not get away totally, but redirect the greed impulses. And so instead of hoarding, you're sharing and you're purchasing, but you're also dealing, and everything that needs to move the civilization along, because we're only here really for one reason, and that's to repopulate the planet. You see, in other words, that's the most fun of being a human, is being able to repopulate, and then as you repopulate, you have to have caretakers for every age of the infant as it grows into adulthood, and then that cycle continues. And the reason we have wars is so that we can develop character. See, you can't develop character when everything's going really well. The way you develop character is that you put the character to a test. And the harder the test, the greater the character. And of course, not everybody becomes at the top of the class, but that's what we're striving for. That's why we have conflict. And because we live in a very physical universe, and the law of the physical universe is basically conflict, And the opposite of a physical universe is a spiritual universe. And so check this out. What's the opposite of everything?
Nothing.
That's right. That's how big the spiritual universe is. It's so small, it really disappears. It's too small to even imagine. And the reason is that a physical universe has everything. It has life, it has oxygen, it has hydrogen, it has chemicals, everything. A spiritual universe only has a feeling, and that feeling is love, because love is knowledge. And so in the spiritual universe, you have all the knowledge there is in the entire physical universe. And it's all in the spiritual universe. But in order to understand what that knowledge is, you have to have a being in the physical universe to learn everything you need to learn. And as we evolve, we learn more and more and more. And eventually, like the Bible says, we all become gods.
Hey, man, you're blowing my mind. I really should have smoked a joint before the show.
Isn't that a
Tommy,
trip?
That's great. That's so deep.
I think your ambition and your plan is amazing, and I think it's great for you to give back to the world on such a massive level. So bravo.
Oh, not only give back, but create a project that self-sustains. Mm-hmm. Because you're producing humans, really beautiful, good humans out of this thing. You got actors, you got writers, you got creators, you got artists, you got the best of everybody, and they're all working toward the same goal, which is to create a planet that is so livable that there's no need for conflict.
Hopefully we get there. If I had trillions of dollars, I'd give it to you.
No, I don't need it. But what you can do eventually, one of the ways I will be raising funds will be adoption. I'm starting a Tommy Chong, join the Tommy Chong family. Okay. And all you have to do is fill out a form and send in a fee, and then you get on the family newsletter. Okay. And whatever events comes up is all announced, and we have family get-togethers on every major holiday, especially on my birthday, May 24th, and we're going to do a celebration. You know, May 24th used to be Queen Victoria's birthday, and they used to celebrate it in the
I'm sure it technically still is.
Well, yeah, it is, but they used to celebrate it with fireworks. All over the Commonwealth, all over Australia, Canada, the Great Britain, and so when I was 7, 8 years old, when I realized I was born on the same day, whenever we'd have fire on my birthday, they'd have the fireworks. I would pretend it was all for me. It was thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So we're gonna have fireworks for your birthday this year?
Oh, big time.
Oh.
Big time. Not me, but I mean, eventually we will evolve to that. When I used to do fireworks, we'd light a sparkler and run around. That was the extent of it. Because I was too freaked out about explosives and the firecrackers. And I was never one for getting an eye put out or having a finger blown off,
Well, everybody was sparking one up for your birthday. I want to wish you a happy early birthday. Actually, funny you should mention that, because my friend Kevin's birthday is this month, and I was on your website, and I saw that you sell Tommy Chong special birthday candles.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to get those for him.
Oh, that's so sweet, yeah.
They have rolling paper, and I believe, and yeah. And they're available on Amazon, so I thought it was...
Yeah.
What are they called? They're I forget what they're called, but they're...
I saw them. I have them, but I can't remember what they anything about
it. But it's great. So you get 4 of them, and they got rolling papers. It's great. But speaking of creating beautiful human beings, I mean, your children, Rae Dawn Chong, Robbie Chong, very successful actors. Marcus Chong is a very successful actor. Was in the Matrix.
Yep.
You didn't technically create him, but he's your son, and
yeah. Well, he adopted me. He was actually the first Chong to adopt me, rather than me adopt him. And
how did that happen?
Well, he just took my name and told everybody that I was his dad, and I didn't argue about it. I said, okay, I'll go for that, and it worked for a while, but yeah, I don't mind. And he is a hell of an actor. And like you said,
so wait a second. So he isn't really your adopted son, or
no?
Oh,
No,
really?
not
I didn't know that.
Not officially. No,
Nicole,
like I said, he adopted me. I've known his mother since
Okay.
she was 3 years old, June, and the brother.
So you're a family friend.
Oh, family, way back. June was. Yeah, she's an old dear friend, and then she hooked up with Marcus's father. He's a television reporter in Seattle. A very cool guy, and so they had Marcus, but
Right.
Marcos, when he said that he was my son, he got more action, you know. And so I said, "Oh, go for it, man," you know.
Nicole and fans, if you're not familiar, you remember the pilot of the Nebuchadnezzar in the first Matrix?
Yes.
And then in the sequels, they had somebody else doing that. That's Marcus Chong.
Oh.
Yep. And on Wikipedia and every reference site, it says that Tommy adopted him, but now we get the real story. You love him; he's a family friend, but you didn't adopt him.
No, he adopted me, and that's fine. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm going to give everybody a chance to adopt me.
So I will be Dark Mark Chong very soon. To adopt me. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give everybody a Chinese name, because that's what makes you an individual. See, when you have your own Chinese name, like I do, Chiang Hong is my Chinese name. When I tell that to someone a scholar that knows how to write it, they write up my name and then they tell me the history. See, my name has history. It goes all the way back to the beginning of the families, all the Chinese families, and like I'm in the same family as Chiang Kai-shek, and
really,
yeah, as far as I can remember, a long time ago. But yeah, and so when I adopt you, I'm going to figure out a way to give everybody gets a Chinese name.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But when your daughter Rae Dawn became such a big star in the '80s, how proud were you? And speaking of beautiful children, what a beautiful woman she is.
Can you imagine? Well, you know what happened with Rae Dawn? She was about 14, I believe, somewhere around there, maybe even younger. Anyway, she said, "Dad, I want a scooter." You know, I said, "Well, then, Rae Dawn, get a job." Because that was Cheech and I just barely started making it. We're still living very, very frugally, as they would say. And so Rae Dawn went and got a job. It was a $10,000 McDonald's commercial.
Oh, wow.
Just like that, boom. And she never turned her back, and she never got that scooter, by the way. No,
I was going to say she'd get a really good scooter for $10,000.
But you know what? I got a scooter when I retired from when they quit the '70s show, when they wrapped it, and now Rae Dawn has it. I gave it to Rae Dawn.
You finally earned that scooter.
So she has a scooter. It goes with her. She also has a camper, and so she's got a scooter and a camper, and oh yeah, she's happening.
Well, let her know we're big fans, because
I will.
And my friends were like, came across something about her on the internet, like, wow, Rae Dawn Chong, what happened to her? I'm like, I don't know. But and we came across her Instagram, and she's doing great. So
no, she's working away. She's a worker.
That's apparently because you told her she couldn't get a scooter. That's why.
Get a job. And that was the only one I'd said that to. I didn't have to the other ones.
Right.
But I wanted them first to get an education. But if they couldn't get an education, they get a job.
Sure.
Yeah, do something.
Right.
Do something to make some money. And to help people. That's all.
Exactly.
That's all. I don't care what it is.
And I see that Rae Dawn has been doing that. Looking at her Instagram page, she's doing a lot of community work and a lot of social work, social causes now. Speaking of being broke, which I clearly am, if you see my apartment, but I was reading, and I was very surprised at this, that when you guys did Up in Smoke, you basically you had made some money with the records, a lot of money. I'm sure the record company made a lot more, and you basically pulled all of that, and it was hard paying the rent until the movie came out. Is that true?
Well, we had done because we quit touring to do the movie, and that was our big income. Those tours, we were making big bucks just for one night, and we had to stop that for the movie, and then when the movie came out, we never really got paid, and then I got sued. It was quite a trip, but it all worked out well because it always does. And
what did you get sued for?
Because I had a loan. I took out halfway when we started the movie. I moved from Malibu to Bel Air, and so my Bel Air house was under construction. Mm-hmm. But we stopped touring to do the movie, and so I stopped having income to pay for the construction, and so I went to Lou and I told Lou I needed some bucks, and so Lou arranged for me to get $100,000. Well, the way he got, it's a long story, but anyway, the way he got the $100,000 came up in court because it wasn't from Lou, it was from another account that the accountant was in charge of. And so if that loan got defaulted, which was getting defaulted, then the accountant would be out the 100 G's. So the accountant sued me. Well, when the accountant sued me, then the thing called discovery, then we found out where the money for making of at least the last part of Up in Smoke, where it came from. And there was a lot of surprises, a lot of raised eyebrows, a little bit of discussion, and then a nice settlement. And that was the end of the Cheech and Chong and Lou Adler enterprise.
Right.
And then we met Howard Brown, and Howard got us lawyers and got us really on the right track. And then everything after that, everything was fine.
And after that, the movies were C&C Brown Productions.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen
your movies once or twice.
I see that. But you notice Shelby's a producer on a few of them.
Yes, I did, and Up in Smoke then became like one of the biggest hits of the year. It was the second highest grossing comedy besides Animal House, and made $100 million, which today would be what, $300 million.
The way gas prices are, more like $600 million.
Sure. And so you're vindicated, but not. I mean, you were vindicated. You were out of debt, but not exactly rolling in dough.
No, the thing is, my whole life has never been about money. Had it been, I wouldn't be where I am today because I had a chance right from the beginning, to stay and become a mogul, and I went for the excitement, the gig, the learning. I wanted to try this and try that, and it was great. Like everything I became first, and then I realized who I was, and then I sort of dwelt on that, enjoyed it, then moved on. Because
now you're going to be a mogul.
When Cheech and I broke up, it was kind of weird, because what happened, he got offered a movie without me. Right. And the whole thing was that it's going to be a Cheech movie or a Richard Marin movie. And then he come up and told me that he was doing a movie without me, period. And so I said, well, then basically, fuck you. See you later.
Oh, wow.
And
born in East LA?
Yeah, that was born in East LA.
Well, let me ask you a question. I didn't ask you this last time. Born in East LA, even though you had nothing to do with it, is still credited to Cheech and Chong because it's on the Cheech and Chong album, "Get Out of My Room," which you did things on other songs, but not that one. It's skits. Did you get any royalties from that?
The thing is, like, like Up in Smoke. I wrote Up in Smoke, but then Cheech and I shared it. I wrote the lyrics in the most of the Basketball Jones. Earache My Eye wrote most of the lyrics. Gator Lorne wrote the music. Cheech got a half of everything. You see, it was always Cheech and Chong. And that was the deal. Well, but when it came to Born in East LA, it was a song from Bruce Springsteen. And Cheech wrote the whole thing by himself. Only problem was, in a way it was a problem, and then in a way it was a solution. He did not include me, period, on that song. But yet it was under the Cheech and Chong to sell it thing, Like he never said.
Sorry about Sergeant Sedanko over there, but go ahead.
So he said, like Cheech never, because it was a remake of a Bruce Springsteen song. See, and so it was really Bruce's song and Cheech doing it solo. But when Cheech wrote it, he never wrote any parts in for me except the cop part. You see, I really took offense to it because everything we had done, Cheech was always the star, and he was like the lead singer, the star, the lead guy. And so, but it was me that was directing the whole, the everything. But when it became Cheech's turn, Cheech would never knew how to write me in anything. We did a video one time, Get Out of My Room. And there again, Get Out of My Room. I wrote the lyrics and the song, shared it with Cheech and Chong.
Out of my room and leave me alone.
Yeah. I don't have to grow up. I'm already grown. Yeah. Well, Cheech wanted to do a video. I wasn't in the video. I consider myself a movie maker, I wasn't ready to do a video, especially with Cheech and Chong, In fact, I didn't even want to do a concert movie because once you do movies, you got to stay in that movie world, Yeah, you can, you do, and we did. But I was still trying. I always wanted to stay, with the A crowd. But it never happened, and so Cheech wrote I said, you do the video, and he said, I will. Again, he never wrote any part for me. Everything was Cheech.
And but my question is, do you get royalties from that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Get Out of My Room. We just got a nice check. Yeah, we hadn't got a check for years. But all of a sudden we get a nice little chunk for Get Out of My Room. Yeah, it was. It was nice surprise. Yeah, I mean we're getting checks, still from Up in Smoke, and still smoking all those. I mean, I don't know how many years they've been out, but every year, we get a nice little bundle.
Well, people keep discovering them. I remember when I was a kid and my friend had the Get Out of My Room album, and we used to listen and laugh at that all the time. And my mom had Los Cochinos when I was a kid, and I loved that. But speaking of Springsteen opened for you guys.
His very first band.
So this is before the E Street Band?
Well, up until Springsteen, we used to tell promoters, just get a folk singer to open for us. Because usually the Cheech and Chong crowd hated the folk singers so much. Come on. It was like, oh, they were so glad to see us, And it was tough on the folk singers, but a lot of them are immune to it, because that's their want in life, to be a folk singer. And so Springsteen was hired. He was going to be the folk singer. But then he put the E Street Band together, and he said, opening for Cheech and Chong would be a perfect spot to debut the band. And so I remember them asking, do you mind if Bruce uses a band? He's not a folk singer. We said, no, not at all. No, I didn't hear him. We came late or whatever, but the band had finished. But apparently it was the first time they ever played. And the sax player told me that story. Yeah, it was great. We had no idea. Cheech and I, we had no idea. We just come on, do our gig, go home. We had no idea, no backstory.
So you guys never shared a ball or anything like that with Springsteen?
No, I haven't.
No?
and the Cheech might have. Cheech chased him around to get the rights for Born in East LA, and finally nailed him, and he got it. Cheech is a bulldog. He doesn't let go. He does it when he wants something. Yeah, like his new art gallery, man. It's going to be incredible.
I can't wait. Yeah, it's good for him. And there's so many questions I have. I have Cheech and Chong overload, but I was gonna say, speaking of smoking bowls with celebrities, now you smoke weed with almost everybody, right?
Quite a few.
Is there somebody that I would never suspect that you smoke weed with?
Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah,
the show Wally.
You smoke weed with Wally?
Tony Dow. Yeah. There was George Harrison, Tony Dow, and myself. I remember I lit the joint. I handed it to George Harrison. He took a hit. Then he handed it to Tony Dow.
That's
Wally.
A party.
And we were outside at a friend's house. And I looked up Wally. Wally? And he gave me that. Yeah, I get that a lot. And he told, he's a sculptor. He's an artist.
Right.
And, he's a cool guy. Very cool guy.
I have a follow-up question to that. Is there anyone you haven't smoked weed with that you'd really want to?
I always tell on my bucket list is Paul McCartney, because I've smoked either with or in front of or be around every Beatle except Paul. And Paul was the only pothead, really serious pothead in the group. And he's the only one that I haven't, I was around John. I never smoked with him. I smoked with George, like I said. And Ringo, he's always hanging out somewhere, drying
Who
out.
hasn't smoked a bowl of Ringo? Come on.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
But how is Willie Nelson's weed? How is it like to smoke weed with him?
Willie, we're both up there. Willie's senior to me.
Oh yeah, no, he's still going. I apparently
he's a Energizer bunny for sure. Willie, I respected Willie's acting in Barbarossa more. Really, I'm into Willie. He's the greatest songwriter and performer ever. He's our national hero. But his acting in Barbarossa just blew me away. Now I was really stoned when I saw it, but I loved the story and I loved Willie's performance. Was just because he played a badass, And I love Willie as a badass. All those guys. Waylon Jennings too, he'd be a good badass.
I've never seen Barbarossa. I gotta check it out.
Oh, see it! It's a beautiful Gary Busey, sort of younger.
I would imagine you've toked with Gary Busey once or twice.
Not really, not toked. But we crossed paths a few times in a TV show and a movie. One time we sort of crossed paths, but he's a little nervous, and
he needs to smoke more.
No, it's just him, He's such a artist, Well, the Buseys, the whole gang. I mean, they're incredible,
Yeah, he's a great actor, but he seems a little off the wall.
You know who I was with the other day? James Cheech.
Okay,
Stacy
Keach's brother.
Yeah, James and I. He's a grower. He's into growing, and we're talking about. I got a Tommy Chong grow tent, and we're talking about growing weed, and and so we're going to hook up and do a thing. But I've got a lot of those friends that we should put them in a movie somewhere. They got to be in movies.
Right. Now let me ask you about Stacy Keach, because to me, his performance in Up in Smoke and in Nice Dreams is so great because he plays it perfectly straight. He's not going for the laugh. He's completely serious. He's giving a real performance, and it's great. It's hilarious.
Fucking genius. Well, see, that was lacking in my other movies. Is that pro actor? What they do? They have a grasp of the genre, so tightly that they become a movement within a movie. That's why you want them in there. That's why you hire the stars, because they bring this ball of talent, and it just floats through your movie, and it's so magical. And yeah, I miss Stacy, those kind of guys, because it's like making a samurai sword. You have to melt the steel so many times and bend it and melt it to get that hard cutting edge. And that's the same as those actors. They've done so many things, and they've learned so much of the craft that you get them on camera, and everything, that energy just explodes within that. And that's what you get out of it, you see. And I made the mistake. I lost interest, and there was some weird shit going on between Cheech and I, because he was pissed off that all the movies were like from me, and so then I tried to make some concessions, and then when you do that, everybody loses, and that shit didn't work. There were moments, and I'm talking about the other projects. There were good moments, like Still Smoking to me is one of my best. I just
great.
Yeah.
But that lard ass scene, it cracked me up every time, because I mean, you guys are funny, but just to see him just lose his mind is hilarious. You get the two together, it's great.
I'm telling you. Every success, you need a failure. Every, political fight, you need an enemy. That's the way of the world. That's the way of the physical world. You need the opposite. And the more opposite you get, the more enjoyable it is. Now you've got a real tennis match. You don't just have one pro just whacking these serves past somebody else. You got someone that's knocking the serve back, and now you got a game. And that's the way it is with acting. You want to get that, and then you want to get it all. You want to get the writer, you want to get the director, you want to get the producer, and the actors and the story, and then you create life.
And it's to incredible. Me, if you got a comedian, even a great one like Robin Williams or Bill Murray, it wouldn't be as funny as it is just seeing this guy legitimately just lose his shit. Because you guys are Lord.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah. I mean, Stacy being straight was such a genius. And how about Strother Martin, my dad?
Oh, that scene is we quote that scene all the time. The Finkelstein shit kid. I love it.
And listen, think about it. This was all before credits.
Oh no, that's what's great about Up in Smoke.
It was crazy. It was like a movie and then credits. Wow. And
did he improvise the Finkelstein shit kid? Is that like a bad take?
He improvised every word.
Really?
Every word. He in fact, we never really had a rehearsal. We just he looked at the script. Yeah, he figured out. And me, I had no lines. I just burped in his face, and that's about it. Off. And he just did his thing, man. But there you go. There again, that's the explosion I'm talking about. You give these guys a stage, man, and they'll light it up like they did. Like they did.
But it's not only veteran actors, though. You discovered a lot of people. I remember when I was a kid, I would watch these movies like Pee Wee Herman was in a Cheech and Chong movie, but that's where he got started.
Yeah.
How'd you find him?
Well, I came out of the improvisational acting genre, and so when I started, casting my movie, I wanted to work with improv actors, and that's why Up in Smoke we had Robert Altman, all of his crew, his people, because Robert Altman was the improv filmmaker. And so the crew and everybody understood improv acting. You shoot the rehearsal, that kind of thing. And we, that was I looked at the whole movie industry the way I looked at our act, you know, and I just realized using the best people, they're craftsmen, and I'm talking about the Robert Altman, you know, Lou Lombardo was really, and now Lou Adler was the director, and he was a good director because he listened to everything I told him to say and to do. He did it perfectly. He did it perfectly. So that's the way we directed, because I couldn't. I did after a while, but doing that broke Cheech and I up. Had we kept Lou or a guy like Lou, we would have still broken up because we could never done it.
Well, it's funny you should say Altman, because I was going to ask if he was an influence, because maybe my favorite scene in any of your movies is in next movie, the welfare office scene. Because there's like 10 things going on at once.
Yeah.
I saw somebody do a reaction video. He couldn't follow it.
Yeah.
There's some going on in the foreground, some going on in the background. You got Cheech is trying to get with Donna.
That came all out of me. That was, I will take credit for that whole scene.
It's a brilliant scene. And
well, they're friends. The junkie with the cigarette he was a junkie. He was Lenny Bruce's father-in-law. He had married Sally Marr, Lenny's mother.
Really?
And Tony Bascara, he's a junkie nodding off.
Oh, he's great.
And the old guy, he's an old cowboy actor, you know, with the no teeth. That was his thing. Michael Winslow was a comedian from San Francisco. The casting office, they found him. They said, "You could check out this guy. He's crazy." And so then I saw a little bit of his act. So he's in the scene, and then Cheech and Evelyn making out, and then me, and all I had to do was just watch him, just look around. It was an incredible. Yeah, that scene is being taught in film school. It goes. I think it's an 11-minute scene without a cut.
Oh, really?
So it was incredible. Yeah, because I had it all going. But see, that's my improv training. You see,
right?
Because you have a stage, and so you get all these different things going at the same time. You see, and so the eye gets to just wander back and forth, and because we are men, like you see the kids with their phones and that now, you know, they can multitask, like they have to. I mean, their brains are developed that way. And so when I did that scene, I mean, that blew so many minds in the movie people, you know.
Right. And very, very Altman-esque, because he did stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Not quite like that.
Yeah, that was my inspiration. Robert Altman and that whole genre. The movie director that I was Terry Malick.
Right.
Yeah, that's my all-time. He's the guy I really look at. I called him, you know, for Up in Smoke.
Oh, really?
And I wanted, because we're looking for a director, and so I give Terry Malick a call, and he says, direct it yourself. And then I didn't take his advice until I started directing movies myself, because, you know, like Up in Smoke, I had Lou Adler, and then after that, it was all me, you know. And so I listened to Terry Malick, you know.
I'm trying to picture a Terrence Malick version of Up in Smoke. It's blowing my mind.
No, that could only be a Tommy Chong version.
I was going to
you know, there's no, that's what made it so special, you know, because I really was embedded with the troops. I was, you know, with the black culture with Motown, and then I was with Cheech. I got into the Chicano culture, and that was the culture that I wanted to highlight, you know. Right. Because up to then, it was always white guys or New York Jewish guys doing their version of the ghetto, their version of the Chicanos. And they're always, you know, cartel guys or gang members, you know, hard ass. But I wanted to show that lowrider, the guy that was only interested in his car, you know, that he didn't even park on his property, you know. I mean, that the opening before the credits with Cheech and I, it was so classic because Cheech's cousin Louis helped write my scene, with the dad, Anthony Stoner. That was
Cheech's your name.
cousin. Yeah, Anthony Stoner, and Cheech's cousin Louis wrote that, and that was one of we did some writing, in the beginning, and then once we got the thing going, then we just wrote as we went, including the ending.
Right, and which is great, but you guys broke a lot of racial taboos for the better. Like you say, you guys
on purpose.
Were the first ones.
On purpose. It was, I visually see when I was a kid. Like I got a Nazi tattoo on my arm because when I was a kid, our house was kind of used. We took in boarders, and when I was about 15, I come across this guy just got out of jail, needed a place to stay. And so he came and stayed with us, and turned out that he was like a white nationalist, skinhead type, with tattoos on all his hands, fingers, and chest, everything. And he gave me a white supremacy tattoo on my arm, which I didn't know it was a white supremacy tattoo.
Even though you're not completely white, you're half Chinese.
I know. It was like a joke, and that's why no one suspected anything. It wasn't until I was on a talk show with some bikers, and the guy goes, "Hey, that's a white supremacy tattoo you got." I said, "Really? Oh shit!"
That would be such a shock. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah,
but I got to be honest. When I was a kid, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that said this to you, I thought you both were Mexican.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I get that all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. But the weird thing is, I was in Tijuana or Mazatlan, near Tijuana, and I was trying to rent a car, and when the car guy goes, "Your name is Chong? Hey, just a minute, come here. I want you to meet someone." And he calls a Chinese guy in. And he's Chinese, and his name is Chong. And he's got dark glasses on, but he sounds like Cheech. "Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, it's Chong.
Yeah. Yo, man, my name is Chong, dude. Yeah. Hey, you're Chong. Yeah, I'm Chong, man. Yeah." And
that's so great.
He says, "Excuse the dark glasses, but I got in a fight last night." And he takes his glasses off. He's got 2 black eyes. Yeah. So it was weird, because the culture has intermingled, and that's really what Cheech and I brought out in Up in Smoke. You see, because we introduced all these different ghetto trips, but we're all joined together with music and weed in order to
the
have
universal
music.
language.
Well, in order to have music, you need weed, and so we found the weed. Then we got our music. You see, and that's what unites the world, and that's what we have to shoot for now. And find a way, and we have. We've got our Zoom calls and everything, and we can do this.
It's amazing that I don't even know, because I was it's before my time, but I can only imagine how revolutionary it was in 1978 to have a movie starring a Mexican and a half Chinese guy, and no big deal.
Breaking box office records,
and it was no big deal.
And saving industries like the drive-in movie theater. We met their association, and they all came up and thanked us and give us a plaque, actually, because we saved that industry, because they had Cheech and Chong weekends, and they would be packed. And they're seeing the same movie over and over again.
And there's a big cloud over the
Up in Smoke
drive-in
festival. Yeah, and it's at a drive-in, and so everybody's smoking and everything. And so we saved the industry. We saved the drive-in movie industry. I love drive-in movies.
Speaking of drive-ins, how did you do the in Los Cochinos? You have that bit where you sneak a bunch of people in the truck in a drive-in. How did you make those sounds with he's peeing on the trunk and they're banging on the trunk? How did you do that?
We got our ways, we
did you pee on a trunk, or
they're secrets. They're actually trade secrets. We can't divulge them, because Cheech and I, we did all the sound effects in a little mix-down room, and we had an engineer. That's all we needed, one engineer, and Cheech and Chong in a mix-down room, and then we just partied the whole time, And then what happened, usually you do a project and you're done, relax, and think about another. But no, when you do a hit record, next thing you know, the record company's like, what else you got? When can we have the next one? And then the next one, and the next one. Next thing we did, 8, 9 albums, man. And they were chasing us around the country. Lou would send crews out to Chicago or to Montreal. We're working a club, and then we'd go, oh, we have to record an album while we're doing the club. Wow. And we did them. We did it. We had so much fun, man.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah, there was no labor involved. It was all about getting high and meeting great people and just laughing and having a great time,
When I listen to him on vinyl now, you put on the headphones. When you put on the headphones on a Cheech and Chong record, it's like a Pink Floyd record. Like things are just going all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we did it purposely, and I think we inspired a lot of people, a lot of the recording artists, because we were first. We were out there a long time. And so I can see a lot of artists. Well, that's why I was on a couple of Dr. Dre albums, and he didn't really agree with my politics, but he sure liked my popularity, And so he
liked your weed too, I'm sure.
We never really got high. Our Dr. Dre and I were very businesslike. I'd come into the studio, he'd tell me what he wanted, and I would do it. And that was it. I never really got to meet him one time.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. He was very businesslike.
And I was in a movie. With him too. Him and Stoop. I was in The Wash.
The Wash?
Yeah. And again, I did the scene with him, and see you later. Wasn't even a see you later. It was kind of a, I guess, cultural thing. I guess. I don't know how to.
He's too big for Tommy Chong. What's the matter with him?
No,
Dr. Dre was here right now. I would straighten him out for
you. No reason to. No, because they're already straight.
Okay. Is that what it is?
He got 50 million, but how much did he get for his headphones?
Oh, there's more than 50 million. I think he's a billionaire now.
Beyond that.
Yeah.
And he just donated 10 million to the Compton High School. So he's very cool on that side. No, I'm talking about personal. We never cooked it up. Snoop and I are a little tighter.
Right.
But I understand those guys, because I really represent like my tad.
Right.
I'm not black. And I represent a lot of people that have that Southern white supremacy tattoo, that attitude. There's a lot of people. I grew up in that neighborhood.
Right.
And in fact, because I was mixed, we were the ones that were considered the N-word, of the neighborhood. Sure. Yeah, it was us. And so I understood that whole dynamic, that headspace,
Well, you're racially ambiguous too, so I'm sure you got called all sorts of things.
Well, not really, because my brother was a hockey player, very tough. He was older. He's 3 years older. So anybody said anything to me, or even look cross-eyed at me, they got hurt, immediately. And my brother had respect of all the tough guys. He was a tough guy. Yeah. No, we had no problem on the physical side of it. It was more strange, like it is today. The weakling, the meek, and the strong. The intellects, the nerds. They're cowering, and then you got the jocks. They're looking for things to hurt themselves with.
Right. Well, things are kind of flipped. So the nerds are like the bullies now, and the jocks are kind of cowering. But Dr. Dre, I'm gonna let you off with a warning because you've been so charitable. But let me ask you this. I've got a weird question about my favorite movie of yours, which is Nice Dreams. For some reason, that movie really clicked with me. I think that might have been the first one I saw, but it's from Jason McNeil, and he said the first time he saw martial arts legend Jeff Amata was in Cheech and Chong's Nice Dream. He had the role as the waiter, and he pulls out a butterfly knife and opens the wine at the table. So, and you went, whoa, and how did that come about? How did you make him?
He wanted a role in the movie, and he showed me the trick with the knife, and so I wrote him in. I said, okay, you'll be the waiter.
How'd you meet him?
Casting, he was trying to get into movies, you know, and they would come up. I love, that's why I love the movie industry. You meet all these people, they want to work, and he came up through casting. Any other questions?
No, but apparently the butterfly knife was new to the West.
Yeah, it was brand new. And we should, there was like, I had trippy things in the movies all throughout.
Right.
That was my way of, improv movies.
Nice Dreams is probably the trippiest movie that you've done. It's got that ending with Michael Winslow doing Jimi Hendrix, and it trips you out every time.
And which one?
Nice Dreams? Yeah.
Nice Dreams. Is that the lizard?
You guys are in a psych ward, and Sandra Bernhard is one of the patients, and they got a guy barking like a chicken, and it's another one. There's like 10 things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And Pee Wee Herman's in there. And...
Hamburger Man, hamburger.
Stacy Keach turns into a lizard, and
that was a trip. Well, you know what happened? We come down, in the props department had a iguana with a joint smoking. Remember? And so I said, I had to pay that off somehow, because that's what you want to do with a movie. You get something going, but you got to pay it off, and so I never really had an ending for Stacy being a stoner the way he was, an upper, or a mind blower. I wanted a mind blowing ending, and so I turned him into a lizard. That was great, huh? His tongue reaching out.
He's got the tail in the back seat, and it's a scene with you two, just Pee Wee Herman and Stacy Keach in the car as a lizard. So, and Nicole, I don't know if you know this. Go ahead if you have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was going to ask a question, but go ahead.
Your question first, and I've got a question.
Well, I was inspired by your question. So, is there one of your projects that you're the most proud of? Like, you probably get asked that a lot, but I'm just curious what you feel is your best work that you.
Well, I there's a little bit in everything. I love them all. They're like my kids. They're all separate. I love them each for what they are. Everyone. I don't have a bad feeling for any of them. I had all good feelings. Something good came out of every one of them. And no. I was kind of disappointed with Cheech in a way, but after giving it a lot of thought, I realized that it was inevitable. It was time to move on. I had said everything with Cheech and Chong that you could say, without all of a sudden repeating yourself. And, that's kind of like, we could do something now, and I intend to. We got a documentary coming out of us, and I intend it. But no, things happen the way they happen. That's why they're so good. You film them, and then you got them. You got them forever.
Nice.
And what was it like performing with Cheech for the first time in 20 plus years in front of a huge crowd, a huge adoring crowd?
It's like learning how to eat ice cream.
It's all instinct.
It's so natural. It's like it was yesterday. There was no time because my life never changed. It was just that I was on stage by myself for about 20 years.
Right.
No, with my wife, with Shelby. Shelby and I started. And then when Cheech joined, one of the stipulations that I had with my wife is that she's part of the act, and that's it. And she became a big part of the act, and she still is, Yeah.
And she apparently doesn't age. She looks fantastic, and she's very
incredible.
funny.
She's incredible. She's funny. She's charming. She's ditzy. She's got a natural nuttiness about her that it's like, wow, I wish I had filmed that. You know, she's amazing.
How'd you meet her?
She was my neighbor, which I didn't know. I was married to Maxine, happily married, pretty recently married. Then we were given a nightclub it was a steakhouse, and I turned it into an after hours club. And we had it for like 5-7 years. It wasn't great, but in the beginning, we were losing money. In fact, we were getting, nobody came in. It was just, it was hopeless, looked pretty bad. And then, so we had an outside gig. We played a place called the Teen Fair. Well, first of all, we played a place on the beach, and that's when I first saw her. She came off the beach. I was outside, and I saw her come off the beach with her little brother holding his hand, and he walked up toward me and past me, and that's when I first saw her. And I swear to God, I've never seen anything more beautiful in my life. She was so gorgeous, and because she had sort of like a sneer, you know, on her face, like, but it was natural. It's just the way her mouth went. But I loved that oh, who are you? That look. And so then that night we were on stage playing, and again she's with her sister now and her brother, and she comes up to the stage, and she wanted to talk to the singer, because her and her sister were into black guys at the moment. And I jumped right in front of the singer and said, hi. You know? And she said, do you know Walking the Dog? And I said, yeah. She's, well, play it. And when she said it, I just, oh my God, I fell in love with her. I fell in love with her. And so I turned to the band. I said, they said, what does she want? I said, she wants Walking the Dog. We knew it. So we played the hell out of it. I turned around and she was gone.
Oh, no.
She had to walk a dog.
At the end of the song, I look up, she's gone. Nowhere in sight. And so then now, a week or so later, we're playing at a teen fair. Well, her and her sister, no kid this time, they come up after the gig, and they start making conversation. Now this time she's talking to me. At least she's not talking, but she's kind of. I'm the guy that was walking the dog. She saw the interest. You know, she's like a fisherman. She saw I took the bait, so she's going to reel me in. So next thing you know, we're going to give them a ride to another nightclub. Not our nightclub, but another nightclub where everybody, all the hip people go. And so she gets in the back seat. I'm in the back seat. And our band uniform at the time, we were sort of like running out of ideas and money. And so we had Dickies underneath shirts. You know what a Dickie is? The turtleneck. Right. And so we get in the car together. I'm in the back seat. She's in the back seat. And she's looking out the window. And she says, take off that Dickie. And I looked at her. I said, excuse me? And she goes, take off that Dickie. Oh, I said, oh, okay. So I took it off. And she said, now get me some popcorn. I fell so in love with her. Yes, ma'am. I ran.
And you've been giving her popcorn ever since.
I ran and got her popcorn and brought it back. And then she said, okay, now drop us up to Harlem Nocturne, the other club. And Floyd, the drummer, was in the car, and Tommy, and yeah, and we drive, and Wes. So we drive down to the Harlem Nocturne, drop off the girls, go to our club. And about an hour later, I hear a big commotion at the door. We got no one in the club. And I look, and it's Shelby and her sister. and a shitload of guys, the whole other club. What happened was that
she pulled that move.
no, they wouldn't let her in the other club. I think she was too young or something. And so she said, "Oh, well, I know a club we can get into." And so she literally Pied Pipered the whole crowd down to our club. And our club stayed full every night from that moment on. It was packed to the rafters. And it was all because of Shelby. And so we became friends. And then after a while, we became more than friends. And then after a while, we became parents. And then after another while, we became lovers, and then.
Well, you were lovers before parents, right?
Obviously.
Okay. Yeah, I was getting confused for a second there.
Yeah. And we've been together ever since.
Well, tell Shelby, I know Nicole, after we interviewed you last time, she went on her Instagram page, is like, Tommy's wife is awesome. And I've seen Far Out Man and Things Are Tough All Over and other things she's been in. And I've seen her do stand-up, and we're big fans.
Oh, yeah. She is amazing. And her painting, oh, my God. Her painting is through the roof. Seriously. Yeah, she's gifted. She's very gifted. And we went on a painting expedition in last week to Umbria, Italy, and where we took lessons with her teacher. And I took photographs, and I had a lesson, but she's really good, very talented, very beautiful. She's all that. I'm very jealous, and that makes it all work.
It's so nice to see your eyes twinkle when you talk about her.
Oh yeah, she's my love. She's my love. I can't wait. I did something that I'm not supposed to do today. I had the dog trimmed. I had the poodle trimmed, and under explicit warning, don't get him trimmed, and I did. So I'm waiting for her to come home to hear the reaction. Should be interesting.
Well, I'll hold you up too long. If I do have a couple more questions, if it's okay.
Sure.
We appreciate your time, and you've always been generous. And everybody's like, "What's it like to talk to Tommy Chong?" And I'm like, "He's the coolest. He's so nice." And obviously because you're medicated, but that you are very nice. But
well,
but
I
Half Baked. Nicole will kill me, but I just saw it for the first time the other night. I've never seen it.
Kill you, but I hope it was a good experience.
It was, but I was surprised that you're in a movie about weed and you didn't smoke weed in the movie. You play a guy in prison. I
played Nasty Nate. Nasty Nate.
The squirrel guy.
Yeah. Squirrel Master. And
Squirrel
the weird
Master.
thing is, right after that movie, I went to jail and I used to feed squirrels. If anything, I could have had a squirrel pet if I wanted, because we used to go feed the ground squirrels, because the food was so bad in prison that the squirrels, they're the ones that got fat, we'd feed them, but Half Baked.
The Squirrel Master in real life.
Yeah, I ended up being. I'm telling you, everything's ordained. There were so many signs of me going to jail. I had a guy write a script. He was a script writer my daughter found, and then I said, "Well, write a script, a Cheech and Chong script," and he wrote about bongs being busted and doing time in prison. And that was the last thing. I mean, it was so ordained that I was going to go down. That
you put it out in the universe, and
it was out there.
But I said this last time, but I really want to reiterate. I think, and I really, it's so awful, that you had to go to jail. And I recommend everybody watch the documentary, AKA Tommy Chong, which apparently the government confiscated a bunch of DVDs of, but and also read your book, I Chong. But you going to jail, I think, has led to the widespread legalization of marijuana because it was so ridiculous.
Absolutely. It was the final straw, because there's no explanation for it, especially when they found out that there were no mass weapons of mass destruction. And yet Tommy Chong went to jail for bongs, you see. because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to create a false narrative, that the hippie dope movement was funding terrorism.
Right.
That's what they were trying to push at the time. And, because Bush was very Putin-like, at the time. And as it turned out, he went to war, just like Putin did,
People forget how bad Bush was, but so yeah, I think you got thrown in jail for somebody selling bongs with your name and not even you.
Well, they wanted a name, to be honest with you, they wanted a celebrity. They didn't want some some glass blower, like Jason Harris. They didn't want him. They wanted Tommy Chong because Tommy Chong has a name. And like in the indictment, they even said that I made fun of law enforcement agencies in my movie. That was in the indictment.
Well, that's technically true, but still.
But
that's not a crime. That's true. But
since when is it against the Constitution that you can't make fun of law enforcement?
It's so ridiculous that
it was everything was wrong about it, but the reason was that it brought attention to me. It's much like this leaked document from the Supreme Court, that they're going to overturn Roe. It's almost like they're going to ruin the GOP, because that's what's going to happen. When you put the entire woman, except for the nutcases, against you, you're going to lose, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, I think you deserve a lot of credit, and for your sacrifice, but because of you, there's dispensaries on every corner.
Absolutely.
As there should be. Why not?
And you can grow in your privacy of your own home. You can, you can do it. The only thing we can't do yet, and you know what? This is even going to make cryptocurrency even bigger, because it looks like the cryptocurrency is the only way we're going to be able to deal with our cash from the marijuana stores, And so if we work it righteously, which it will be worked, then the currency, marijuana is going to be able to generate its own currency. In effect, like everything else does. Corn, wheat, barley,
right. The other commodities market,
yeah, and that's what it's going to happen. And Cheech and Chong are going public, and we have a delivery service, and we have
great,
all sorts of our own brands. Cheech has his brand, I got my brand, and then we have brands together, and then we got CBD, and we got it all. Gummies, we got everything. And so it's just a matter of time before we get it all done, and we're going to get it all done. It's happening.
Right, that's great. The other question I had, a lot of people don't even know you from Cheech and Chong. They know you from That 70s Show, and I know they're doing a reboot of That 70s Show called That 90s Show. Are you involved in that?
Yes, I am. Actually, they give me a call, and I did my part. It's the kids, the grandkids. It's Red and Kitty, and the grandkids.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I don't know what the grandkids did, but I got a good idea, and it's going to be great.
That's great. I'm glad they put you in there. They should.
Yeah, I mean they never give me any instructions, so I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about it or not. I really don't give a shit. To tell you the truth, I got a big mouth. That's what I'm known for. That's why people want me on their podcast, because I do talk.
Well, that's a Dark Mark Show exclusive. Tommy Chong will be in That 90s Show.
Yeah, yeah. Leo, I'm back as Leo.
Leo's back on That 90s Show. And my unless Nicole has another question, I have just one last question. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen or you've ever smoked that's been turned into a bong?
Weirdest thing that ever smoked been turned into a bong.
Because I've seen bongs out of apples, bongs out of beer cans.
I was going to say a dildo, but I don't want to admit to having a penis anywhere near my mouth. God, I don't know.
We'll go with dildo. I think that's a good. Because I saw the.
I didn't realize until after.
No, I was just watching, and I had this VHS when I was a kid, the Tommy Chong roast, and you pulled out a dildo on the Tommy Chong roast. Playboy in the '80s was trying to get into the roast thing, like 20 years before its time.
Right. Now, what did I do? Oh, was that Cheech and I doing Queer Wars or something?
No. It was just you. It was a roast of you. Cheech wasn't involved. Marsha Warfield, Dick Shawn, Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld, yeah.
It was like Playboy tried to do like...
And a dildo came out?
Yeah, you came out and you said something because Marsha Warfield, who's great, who I've gotten to know, and it was wonderful. She said that she fucked you, and you're like, oh yeah, I fucked you, and then you brought out like this dildo. and Dick Shawn vomited on stage, so you put the dildo next to the vomit. It was a whole... It's on YouTube. You got to check that out again. It's hilarious.
You know, I have a big memory of that bit. What I do remember is that Seinfeld, I never met Seinfeld. He never came back, never said hello, never mentioned my name on the show even.
He's an awful roaster, I got to be honest. He's not a like, he did a couple like, Cheech and Chong, their movies have such great plots. And then he's like, hey, you ever lose a sock in the laundry? And you're like, oh, come on. But a guy in Hartford, a gangster, he had a nightclub he opened. He had me booked there, and so he opened it up. There's mail all over the floor. Obviously, the feds had closed him down, and he's opening it up to have the Tommy Chong night. Right.
And he said he didn't like Seinfeld either. He said he did it, but he said, "Ever get something in your tooth and you can't get it out?"
Yeah.
it was pretty funny.
Yeah, this roast was like 20 years before its time. Like, I guess Playboy TV was trying to do roasts.
Well, David Steinberg was he directed it or produced it.
Right.
David Steinberg.
Right.
Yeah. That he got me. Well, what happened? I did a Milton Berle roast for him, and my bit with Milton was that he was so well hung that when a fire broke out, someone came up and broke Milton's glasses and unzipped his penis and pulled it down, ran down 2 flights of stairs and put out the fire. And Steinberg loved that, and so next thing I know, they're roasting Tommy Chong. But I don't remember the dildo. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, but you busted out a dildo, and I can't remember what the whole bit was, but you're like, I went to a sex shop to get this, and I'm not sure.
God, I got to check it out.
Yeah, there was a video store out by my house, and they were getting rid of VHSs for DVDs, and that's one of the VHSs I had, and I used to laugh at that when I was.
I love that it was a fire sale, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think I got nice dreams and a couple others too.
The throwaway bin. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Yes, the Tommy Chong roast was like a big Playboy Tommy Chong roast, and then you were also roasted by Greg Giraldo, probably one of the last roasts he did.
With Cheech and I were roasted.
Yeah, that was on TNT, and that was a real roast.
What did he die of?
It was there's different accounts. Apparently, it was he was overdosed on some prescription drugs, I think.
Fentanyl or something.
I'm not sure. But I think he had a medical condition, and he just missed. They say he didn't do the right dosage, which I don't know, because he was in recovery, so I'm not sure. But he was great. What a great comedian.
Yeah. Well, all those guys, man.
I hasten to say, in my opinion, Greg Giraldo is funnier than Jerry Seinfeld, but what am I going to say? That's my personal, especially as a roaster.
Yeah. You know the guy that really cracked me up is Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh, he's great.
How do you like Bobcat?
I love Bobcat, and it's funny you should mention that because Jerry Seinfeld, Bobcat Goldthwait. Jerry Seinfeld can't stand Bobcat Goldthwait. He did the comedians in cars drinking coffee and talk shit about Bobcat Goldthwait, and they bleep Bobcat Goldthwait's name out of it. And Bobcat's he's like, I didn't like him then, but I haven't seen him in 100 years. I could care less about Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know why he keeps bringing it up. So Jerry Seinfeld's
Bobcat said that.
Yeah. And Jerry Seinfeld on the show is like, he always thought he was cool, but his act was terrible. Who cares if you're cool, if you got the jokes? And it's like, and the woman that he's got on the show is friends with Bobcat. She's like, I like him. And so he's like, he sucks. He actually said he sucks on the show, which is weird.
Wow.
Yeah. Bobcat got really mad at me one time.
What happened?
Well, Shelby and I were working the East Coast, and we just got out of New Jersey, where Dice Clay's crowd, and they really gave Shelby a bad time. She went out, and they purposely wouldn't laugh at any of her jokes. They were just really mean. And so when she walked off stage, I thought, that she'd be devastated, but she wasn't at all. And she said, I said, so how was it? I knew how it was. And she said, fuck him. And I said, okay, all right. She's a comedian. She's real. And then a couple of weeks later, we're in Vegas, I guess, at some comedy club there, and Bobcat's on the bill. Well, Bobcat had just broken up with his wife, was in it. He had a girlfriend on the road with him or something anyway. And so Shelby, because she's opened the show, she mentioned something about it, about, oh yeah, dump the wife, that thing. And Bobcat fucking died, man. He can run into the dressing room. He said, your wife's talking about me. And I laugh and I said, but Bobcat, I don't know, this is a news flash, but you're a comedian. She's a comedian. That's what we do. We talk about each other, and he cried like a baby. It was funny. And he kept crying after she was finished. She had no idea. She was just glad the bit went over, what it was.
Well, he was going through a divorce, and unlike you, he didn't have Tommy Chong waiting for him after the divorce. So I give him a little slack on that. But one more question, and I really appreciate you sticking with us, and we've always done a lot of these long shows, and I appreciate it. Why are Canadians so funny?
Funny involves two things. It involves truth and intelligence. And the Canadians, or anybody funny, is they've got those two qualities going for themselves. They know the truth, and they're intelligent enough to twist it or make it so funny that you lessen any negative impact. That's how you disarm anybody or anything or any situation. If you find the humor in it, you can disarm anything. You can keep yourself from getting killed if you can find the humor in it. And that's why the Canadians, plus in Canada, it's a no bullshit country. Down here you can pretend a lot. In New York you can pretend a lot, but up in Canada you don't pretend. Everything is real, and your stupidity is real too. If you are, whatever, if you're stuck there, that's who you are. And, like Guy Lombardo orchestra, there's a lot of musicians on that orchestra that could play the fuck out of their instruments, but that's where they made the money. That's where the food trough was. And Canadians, for the most part, were realists. If we don't do certain things, we don't get certain things. We have to go out and get it. No one's going to knock on your door and say, hey, Dan Aykroyd, hey, do you want a job doing this or that? No, you're going to auditions, you're going to open mic nights, you're doing whatever the fuck you can do to make it. And right. Canadians, hey, we invented hockey. That's how tough we are.
There you go. If you want a scooter, you got to work for it.
That's it.
Tommy, as always, it's been a delight. You are
Okay.
the best. You were still my comedy hero, and just I can't say enough for you. You've just been so gracious with your time and such a nice, real person. I guess that's the Canadian in you. If you have anything you want to promote, and I encourage everybody to go to TommyChong.com. All sorts of things going on. Great belated Mother's Day gifts and Father's Day gifts and birthday gifts, anything for anybody. So promote away, whatever you got going on.
Just whatever you find, whatever you're looking for with Tommy Chong on it, I stand behind everything, and if it's making money, I really push the shit out of it, so whatever makes anybody feel
Google
good. That's
Tommy
what I
Chong
want to do. I just want to make everybody feel good. If you get my CBD, it'll make you feel good. If you do any of my videos, it'll make you feel good. So I'm a feel good guy.
You absolutely are. And Nicole, tell everybody how they can find you on social media and about your new poetry book.
Well, you can find me at Nicole6Books on Instagram, Nicole H6 on Facebook, and then go to lulu.com, LULU.com, and search Nicole 6, and you'll find my latest book.
Okay, bye.
We're gonna send you a copy, Tommy. I'm Goth Comedian on all social media. Thanks a lot. You have a wonderful night. Everybody have a wonderfully creepy week. Bye.